So,
Let's see, let's get started. What are we doing first? Okay, so Kenny, were you gonna take me through any exercises y'all been doing? What? Alright, what do you wanna do? You wanna explain it or make me understand? As if you were doing class. I don't care what you do. You tell us what you're doing. Now, does everyone understand what it is that you're doing?
Yes, sir.
So if you ask Zaire or James, if you ask them, Daniel, if you ask them a question, they'll be able to answer your question, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. So while she's getting ready, Ms. Starks, didn't you say you were going to develop some questions for this week?
Did I say I was going to develop some questions?
Didn't you have some questions for violence in the promised land?
I'm not finished reading it completely, but I guess I have some questions about it.
What's the question?
I don't know. It talked about the violence in video games and technology.
What was it talking about violence in video games and technology?
How this can, I guess, contribute to
What year was it written?
Violence in the Promised Land,
Yes.
1995.
Was it 95? Or I think that may have been the year that it was published.
Published in.
I think it had been written a couple of years prior to that. So what you're reading in violence is a lot of what everyone is talking about today, now, as if they know what they're talking about, when they don't really know what they're talking about. But what is there could be a catalyst to help you to know where to look, to find out what it is you need to study so that you can have something to discuss about what's going on in your existence. You have Violence in the Promised Land in your book, don't you, Zaire?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Read the part to me that talks about man-child in the Promised Land. Did you look at that part?
Man-child in the Promised Land. I'll look at that.
Read that part to me, Zaire. What you need at the top, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you need a rectangle. Doesn't it say vowels or does it say phonetics? At the top, I think it's going to say vowels across the top.
It's behind other man thinking.
You got vowels? Good. And at the bottom, you would have, go ahead, put your vowel in there. Did you find it, Zaire? Read it to us.
okay.
Yes.
Dr. Black, so I want to, you were asking me a question of what question did I have after reading this, and so I wanted to point out something that I underlined at home when I was reading it. Is if the methods of education are not changed, the current direction of going nowhere in a hurry will not only continue but will gain momentum. The continuing escalation of an imbalance in the development of mental capacities between great numbers of individuals in the American social structure will inevitably cause an escalation in chaotic situations.
All right, what's the
So
question?
there's going to be some sort of imbalance.
No, I'm not saying there's going to be an imbalance. I am suggesting that there is an imbalance in comparison to what there was once upon a time, relative to a group of people who are living in a social structure, and the difference between how they develop now and how they developed 40 years ago. that something is off center now, and so that creates anytime something is off center, it's usually out of balance. And when you have an education system that's not balanced, and it's projecting thoughts into children, what do you think the children are going to be? So anyway, where are we? Did you understand what I just said?
Yes, what I understand is that there's gonna be.
Going to be?
The mental capabilities
Put
that
the middle
we
E
as
with your
individuals
M.
have today are
The middle
not
line
what
with the M.
individuals had 40 years
The
ago.
middle of the E should be with the M.
As a-
Basically, but you have to also understand is that the people who are teaching and training, educating your children, are not being prepared like people were 40, 50 years ago. And if they're being prepared in a lesser way, what are they projecting to your children?
The middle.
In other words, the average teacher that you've ever come into contact with, the average, how do they teach a subject?
The middle of the E. Line at the
How-
end.
Line with
The
M.
middle of
How
the
do
E.
they teach these children?
Let's-
Usually, most teachers, how would they teach these children?
They develop lesson plans and
They develop lesson plans.
Yeah.
The middle of the
Okay,
E.
so the lesson plan
line
that,
with
that
the
you're
M.
saying they develop, where do they get this concept from about a lesson plan? What is a lesson plan? In other words, they're getting ready to teach this group of children something today. And you're saying they develop a lesson plan
from a curriculum.
from a curriculum. All right, but usually they have some type of, if I'm not mistaken, it's a teacher's guidebook.
And it's very
And then
important.
they actually get instructions out of the teacher's guidebook to tell them what to do with the children. That's the way I have been running into what's going on in the public schools. But the thing is once upon a time, teachers didn't have a teacher's guidebook that came from the publishing companies. Teachers had to depend on what they innately understand, what they innately know, what is their knowledge base in order to know what to do with teaching their children. So now that's all changed. You don't have teachers that actually would transfer their knowledge base to the children. All you have is them following the instructions out of the textbooks. You follow me?
Yes.
Now, what you have to figure out is, are the textbooks actually trying to help this young person learn how to use their mental capacity to think through something, to actually know how to solve a problem? In other words, when you were going to school, they taught you to solve an arithmetic problem, 5 times 25, right?
They taught me how to multiply.
Write it up there for me, the way that I just illustrated it.
According to the school board last night, they said we've been using outdated textbooks for the
That's
past.
no doubt. There's no doubt. That's exactly right. Isn't that what they taught you? Okay.
Let me see.
Real simple. No, whoa, real simple. Did you, hold on. Did you say 5 times 5?
120.
Did you say 5 times 5? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. But how about this? How about if all you do is you say what she just did, which I hope that she just did. You said 5 times 2, right? Good. And 5 times 2 is what?
10.
But at the same time, now, this is also what they taught us in school, to do this down here like this. And then by the time she draws this line and files it out, it'll be 125, right? But what if she doesn't do any of this? What if what she does is she says 5 times 2 is what? 10. Now, instead of writing 10, because after the 2 there's a 0 there, but you just can't see it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Did you understand what I just said?
You
That
said
there's
after the 2, there's a 0,
after
I
the,
just can't
after
see
the
it.
2 there's a 0 that you cannot see. It's invisible, but it's there. How do we know it's there?
Cause it's in the tens place.
It's in the tens place. So we're really saying, instead of 5 times 2, what are we really saying? 5 times 20. Good. So you immediately know what 5 times 20 is, right? You know that's 100, right? If you got 5 $20 bills, you know you got $100, right? So if you got any questions and you got 5 20s in your hand and you don't know what it is, you got you a problem. So you know that's 100, right? And 5 times 5 is what?
25.
So it's 125. So now you don't need pencil, you don't need paper, and you don't need to take forever. You can just look at this problem and you can solve it in a matter of moments. Why is it that we're having problems when we discuss this and we're looking at this, but we can't really do it? Why is it? Why is that?
Well, the first thing, Kennedy, is to put it up the way you asked it to.
Well, the reason I asked her to do it this way is because I think that this is what you were projecting. Wasn't this what you were projecting? Huh? So that's why I wanted her to do it this way.
Okay.
But I asked her to actually solve the problem by doing it the way we would do it if it was horizontal rather than vertical. In other words, if it was horizontal, we'd just say 5 times 2, which is 10. But because we know there's an invisible 0 after the 2, we put that 0 after the 10, and we have 100. And we know 5 times 5 is 25, so it's 125, right? Now, why are we having a problem with this? Anybody? Is anybody having any kind of problem with this thought?
I'm not, well,
That's the
because,
way I learned to do it.
I know that's the way you learned to do it. So now, what we're having to do is we're having to make sure we learn to do it another way that we're going to introduce it to our children, because if they keep learning what we've always learned, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. They won't be prepared to change anything. And that's what it's talking about in the book. If you want them to be balanced now, there are some things you're going to have to do.
Now,
But we're going to have to do it.
in speaking of for this setting, they have been taught to do it horizontal. I don't know, well, I guess because she did put it up the way you wanted her to. I don't know, because because you teach, you must practice. Maybe that's why she has somehow forgotten her algorithm. How to do math based on place value.
I understand. I understand.
But she's been taught.
Good, good. And I'm hoping that because she is being taught other ways, that she's going to learn how to calculate this 3, 4, 5 ways immediately, not just one way. You know how they say that there are multiple ways to skin a cat? Well, that's how we're going to have to start doing things. We can't depend on any one way that we've been thinking about anything. I wanted you to actually practice by looking in the book that you were actually setting up and figuring out some questions. And then I was going to let Tamarcus take you through the process of evolving the question.
Okay,
So I'm listening.
I don't know if I have a question, but when I read that, I thought that this imbalance that had something to do with violence and the exposure and how frequent we see violence on the television and with the electronics. Because
Those are components that are part of what's going on right now. in the social construct that we live in, as far as TV, the video games, everything that's been developed over the last 30 years, it is very violent. The thing is do your young people know how to actually assess violence on the TV, in the video game, compared to violence in the playground? Let me run something by most of you. How many of you know that the violence on the playground is much worse than the violence in the penitentiary? How many of you are aware of this? How many of you have been able to actually suggest to yourselves that the children live in a very violent world?
It traumatized me for life.
You're saying once you really recognize all what was happening to you on the
It
playground?
happened to me when I was in the first grade.
Okay, good.
And the experiences behind the incident led, when they took me to the office for getting jumped on,
Mhm.
the principal, rather than investigate what happened, beat both of us, and something happened to him while he was beating me
Mhm.
until a hernia erupted in my groin.
So this is what happened to you as an individual.
And it happened over and over.
And I'm glad that you were capable of being a person that could actually record these events. But I'm also suggesting that most of us have never been willing to admit that this is what is a part of the society that we've actually existed in.
It was like it becomes abnormal norm. I know you understand what I'm saying. I remember you describing to me, you called that a slow form of trauma and vicarious. In other words, if it didn't happen to me, I see it and I witness it, I still have some opinions and feelings about it. And you get what I'm saying?
I
So
know what you're saying.
there's an inner dread that happens just about having to go to the institution.
But now, at the same time, you may be a person who's willing to admit that this kind of violence is a reality. How many people have you come into contact with in your lifetime that were willing to admit that?
I can share this. The people I went to high school with, I'm on one of those groups in Facebook with my class of 71. They will talk about how fun Southside High was, when in fact it was the first school in the city of the state of Tennessee where a student was murdered in the classroom. The same class now. We saw our teacher get stabbed in the hallway. We saw another teacher get hit in the head with a block of wood. And I'm like, damn.
So this affected you, but you're saying that it did not seem to affect most of the people that you were in those classes with.
Until I talked to them one-on-one.
And until they were willing to acknowledge that this even happened.
Yeah, because it's like the brain has a way of not wanting to remember traumatic events. It has a way of thinking it skipped over them and it goes into a form of denial. And this is just research I've done about how trauma affects
Didn't I
people.
point you toward that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So does that trauma, that violence cause some sort of imbalance?
It can.
Okay.
See, I'm not trying to suggest that anything that's happened out here has happened to everybody or everyone. I am suggesting that there has been a process where they constructed a society that you've been living in and you didn't know what you were actually existing in. You have no idea other than what they told you. And you repeated what was going on. But what I wanted you to do was, did you read that to me, Zaire? Read it loudly so everyone can hear you. What is she about to read there?
The man-child.
Okay, what is she about to read?
What are you reading, Zaire?
Read it, Zaire. Yeah, well, it's a little small excerpt from Manchild. It's by Claude Brown. He was the writer of Manchild. And it is right there, and what does it say to Marcus?
Right.
Just say they inherit a total.
Zaire, he's telling you what it says so you know what to read. Have you found it? I can't hear you, dear.
Yes, sir.
Read it to us.
They have inherited the total lot of their parents, the disappointments and the anger to add to their misery. The children have little hope of deliverance. For who does one run to when he's already in the promised land?
So now everyone here, you've read that, right?
Yes.
You've read Man Child of the Promised Land.
No, I haven't not read Man Child.
Okay, now I just took that excerpt from Man Child in the Promised Land out of the book and placed it in Violence in the Promised Land because I wanted everyone to understand he was experiencing something that he wanted to share with everyone. So are we doing the work that allows us to go in and feel what he's feeling? Because he's transmitting to you what he's feeling. But if we just look at the words and just pass over the words, but we don't really go in and dissect what he's talking about and truly comprehend what he's presenting to us, how are you going to be able to feel this? So read it to us again, Zaire.
Yeah, that warrants discussion.
Good.
The same one?
Yes, dear.
They have inherited the total lot of their parents, the disappointments and the anger. To add to their misery, the children have little hope of deliverance. For where does one run to when he's already in the promised land?
Now, you knew that you were born in the promised land, right? You didn't know that.
No,
You
sir,
lost
I did.
to that, stop that.
What?
You don't ever need to say that.
I did not
No,
know
wait a
that.
minute, wait a minute. All I'm doing is I am suggesting that this is what this man projected to all of us.
My son on the way here, we were talking, and I was in traffic and I was complaining about it. He said something rather profound to me. He says, those are first world problems you're complaining about, Dad.
You live in the third world.
He said, but you trying to solve third world problems.
Yes. Ain't there something?
And I never considered that. And then it hit me now, some 14 years later, what you said to me. When you said, what kind of car you drive? Where you live? And it just hit me what you meant just now.
You keep talking about you involved in the struggle for so-called poor black people, but in the back of your house is a swimming pool. Y'all better figure this out, because y'all faking. And until you're actually able to understand that you can't do that, you can't all of a sudden come from the house with the swimming pool and come over to the hood and try to solve these problems over here.
Dr. Black.
Yes.
Can you lend support to people?
You can, no, okay, fine, you can lend support, but when you lend that support, are you telling them what you think they should do?
That's the key. That's what you, that
Or
is
are
the
you
key.
listening to them
That's
tell you
That's right.
what they feel
That's right.
about their existence? Because I'm suggesting that just about everyone during my lifetime that was running all of the organizations that said they represented so-called black people never listened to so-called black people.
The first rule of organizing is to listen to what the people want.
I understand, and I'm suggesting that a lot of people talk about what the rules are, but very few people ever follow the rules. Claude Brown was talking about some rules even before I got involved in this. I copied what he said, but I could only copy what he said because I actually read what he was trying to project to everyone.
So, Mr. Black, did King follow the rules at any time?
Follow what rules?
That,
He followed the rules that he had learned. Now you've got to go in and find out where did he learn those rules from. I would suggest to you that he learned them from Francis Bacon and Thomas Aquinas or whatever you want to call them. All of you have studied these particular philosophers, right?
Come on, man. There you go.
What? No, I'm serious. Because everybody's always talking to me about how much they know about Martin Luther King, but they've never bothered to go in and study what he studied. So how do you know anything about him? I was watching the NBA the other night when they had the special game, and it was Martin Luther King Day, and they were on the TV, and one of them said to the other one, he was born in what year, Daniel? What year was Martin Luther King born? Zaire, what year was he born? Kennedy, what year was he born?
1929.
Good. And what was his name at birth?
Michael King.
And one of the announcers on the program made that statement. And everyone else that was sitting up there with him said, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Why didn't they know that? They were all participating in the basketball games for Martin Luther King Day, but not one of them had any idea that he was born Michael King. Not one of them had any idea why his father changed his name from Michael to Martin Luther. Not one. And then I was saying to Ms. Bell, I remember I've gone over this in class, I think about 15 years ago. But the people didn't take it seriously because they're not really paying attention to what I'm talking about. You know,
Before the thought that you were pursuing having to do with who Martin Luther King studied. How did he?
no, I didn't ask who he studied. What I suggested was on Martin Luther King Day, the NBA actually had on TV. One of the announcers said that he was born in 1929. Said he was born as what's his name?
Michael King Jr.
Michael King. And he stated why his father changed his name. What did his father change his name and Michael's name? What did his father change their names to? Martin what?
Luther.
Why did he change his name and his son's name to Martin Luther? You don't have a clue, do you?
I do.
Okay, well then tell us. Then tell us what you're thinking.